Hello, welcome back. We're just coming to the conclusion of my first foray into the Dark Valley. I set out to do the Barbarossa scenario, so just the first 8 turns. And I think the general opinion is that it's quite a challenge for the Germans, and I have to agree. I think initial outing it's always going to be a bit tough, as it probably should be. Target is sort of 30 victory points. I was on 24, adjacent to 4 VP spaces, so you know, not that far away, certainly within grasp. But I think although it's normally an 8 turn scenario, realistically you've got 6 turns to do what you need to do, because the last 2 turns are snow, where you're going to lose territory rather than gain it. You need to be in or adjacent to an urban centre to be considered to be in combat supply. If you're not, you're going to suffer -2/+2 DRM in combat, which means that the Russians are going to take full advantage where you're not adjacent to towns or to cities. I think that actually represents my understanding of the winter, certainly the first winter, quite well. But I did thoroughly enjoy it. I mean, home's been a bit up and down the last few weeks, so this has been a nice sort of distraction. Other things I've had to do, but the fact it's chip pull, if you've got 20 minutes you can pop in the office and draw a chip from the bag and think, oh, it's only a Panzer Army, it's just a little bit of the map, maybe a 3 hex radius. I'll do that little bit and then move on. So it's quite nice from that point of view. You don't need to have big chunks of time where you're going to have, if you put a chip which is move everything and you need to give it a bit more thought, you can just park the chip and come back to it when you've got a bit more time. But if you just happen to draw one of the quicker ones, then it gives you that opportunity to move the game on. So it's fine. The charts are very good. I think there's 2 copies of the terrain effects and the CRT, and then there's 3 other very useful charts which seem to cover, I think, everything. I don't think there's anything that I had to refer to the rulebook. To download in the end both the reinforcement schedules and the setup schedules for both sides, and they're a really good asset. I mean, again, thanks to the guy who did that. But they're very well done, and it's just nice to have a picture, isn't it? Sometimes of what you're looking for. That's what I want to say about it. I think everything to me seems to flow very well with this game. I think the rules are very well done, concise, but don't seem to miss anything out. I think, questions were almost sort of self-inflicted doubt, whereas if you just do what it says on the tin, you'll probably be fine. I tend to sort of doubt myself sometimes. I think, is that what it means? Go and check. Oh yeah, that is what it means. The only thing, I suppose, from a simulation point of view that I took a while to get my head around was the bombardment for the aircraft. It was always my understanding that the Blitzkrieg was a combination of the ground forces and the air forces working in sort of close cooperation, and that's why they were so effective. And yeah, you do support ground combats with the air. The additional 4 strength points for the Germans can be quite important, but they've also got an interesting decision to make whether you just bombard a hex which is not being attacked by other ground forces, and then you've got a chance of doing a step loss. So you can potentially sort of make holes in the Russian line. So if you have to get two chits on the bounce, which is of course very likely in the initial few turns, you can almost punch a hole with the air, and then the next chit that comes along allows you to move through the gap. I was thinking, did that happen? Were they actually creating holes in the defence lines from purely air missions? The designer's notes would suggest that's the case, because Ted mentions there were examples of this happening in 41 and 42. I suppose you're sort of disrupting their logistics and command and control, so you're essentially making their defensive lines much less effective by concentrating the Air Force on just bombing the targets. And you know, it's another interesting decision point, isn't it? Because if you use them and you roll poorly, then the aircraft is flipped over as done for the rest of the turn, whereas you can keep on supporting automatically with the additional strength points for every chit. So if you're going to go for early bombardments, you're taking that risk of them being out for the rest of the turn. So I think choices are good. I wasn't initially convinced that was a sort of legitimate historical choice, but apparently that there are examples of the Luftwaffe being used in that way. So I'll bow to his superior historical reading and research. I'll show you the map. The map still looks quite good for the Germans. They've still got plenty of forces. Got quite a few losses. I've played to the end of turn 7. Turn 8 would just make it slightly worse. The shock armies have arrived. They're doubled in attack on the snow turns in the first winter, and so if they can catch the German or the Axis ground forces not adjacent to towns and cities, then they're going to get an additional +2. And of course, attrition is quite favourable for the Russians. So, quick look at the map. I think it's a good game. Very pleased I've got a copy. Would definitely like to give it a go face to face. Would even potentially do it again and try and move on into 42. I think the whole case blue situation would be interesting. Some of the turns played quite quickly. I think the winter turns have only got 4 or 5 chits. So what looks like to be a very long game isn't necessarily the case. I think with 2 people playing and knowing what you're going to do with your chits, rather than having to change mode and think for the other side, it would probably play quite quickly. So it's good stuff. Start in the north, around Leningrad. Germans are making quite good progress around here. They did commit one of the Panzer armies. You see, it's the 4th Panzer Army. You got some tough decisions after the initial few turns. When everything gets to activate, you've got to select 2 or 3 of the 4 available Panzer armies to put into the bag. So that's another good decision point, I think. Had some reasonable rolls with the supply depots. They're moving up in front. I mean, Moscow looks pretty solid now. Supply position is quite good for the Germans. I mean, that one may get knocked back if the Russians retake that hex. They were having a go at RL, which is a proper city. That actually ends, I think, at turn 7, so I think from turn 8 onwards, cities are all cities, rather than you just having to select 2 to take the city defence marker. Briansk is in German hands. There's quite a few forces here in the middle. They're not a huge strength in depth. The only target there is Kharkov, but all those combats would be made with the -2 if it was a German making them, so you're on a bit of a hiding for nothing, but it might be a good jump off point for Case Blue. And we're next to 2 VP. There's I think there's Zaporozhye, Adjane Popetrovsk. You can see that's the Zhukov marker is there to feed in some more troops as required. And in the Caucasus, should have taken Odessa. That's another bit of low-hanging fruit that was, I thought it was going to fall. A Russian army managed to get back, which has made it quite tough. They had a go at it, and I think they rolled quite poorly, and just never quite got round to ticking it off on my to-do list. Shall do better next time. Sevastopol, and we've pushed into the Crimea, but now we're again, that would be another objective for 42. The German dead pile, not insignificant. They get a whole bunch of stuff back on turn 11, but they have to survive on what they've got now until then, so they're going to take a bit of a beating. But clearly, compared to the Russian dead pile, you can see the sort of loss ratio definitely favoured the Axis. But I've definitely enjoyed it. I would recommend others trying it if you can get hold of a copy. Thanks a lot. Bye.